Selamun Aleyküm. Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri vehlul ukdeten min lisani yefqahu kavli. This is the part of the 17th word, the section called the second table, but we will just quickly go over the first table. They are related. So again, this is the second table of the 17th word. In my book, it's 232. In some other versions, it's 231st or 3rd. So let's start, inshallah.
And to give a background, these two tables were written at a time when Nursi came back from Russia, when he was held as a captive for, I guess, 3 years. And he comes back to Istanbul, and his people have been very welcoming to him. So they offered him a good position in the Ministry of Religion at the time. So everything was perfect for him. But then he, looking at the mirror, he saw white hairs in his beard and head, and he started having a self-questioning. And this first table and second table are, the first table's subtitle is the table depicting the reality of the world of the heedless. And the second table is going to be the table indicating the reality of the world of the people of guidance, those with easy hearts. Don't call me to the world. I came and saw it was transitory. Heedlessness was a veil. I saw the light of truth was concealed. All the beings in existence I saw were ephemeral, harmful. If you say being, I dressed in it. Alas, it was non-being. I suffered much. If you say life, I tasted it. I saw it was torment upon torment. The mind became pure torture. I saw permanence to be tribulation. Life became pure whim. I saw attainment to be pure loss. Deeds became pure hypocrisy. I saw hopes to be pure pain. Union became parting itself. I saw the cure to be the ill. The lights became darkness. I saw these friends to be orphans. These voices became announcements of death. I saw the living to be dead. Knowledge was transformed into fancy. I saw in science 1,000 ailments. Pleasure became pure pain. I saw existence to be compounded non-existence. If you say the beloved, I found him. Alas, on separation I suffered grievous pain.
So if you can give us the gist of it and summarize maybe.
Osman Abi, would you like to give us some summary?
Everybody was in the discussion last week, right? Everyone was in the discussion last week. So whatever everyone took for himself, so I don't know.
So nobody wants to give
My summary would be very precise. If you look at life from a perspective that doesn't have any dimension for eternal life and God, no matter how much you try to enjoy it and what kind of pleasure you want to get out of it, at the end it will always be pain and separation and meaningless. So that's my take.
And this was a world weave of a heedless. I guess he was trying to say, when I look at the world from a heedless perspective, this is what I see.
Which means that not being aware of the reality of the universe. That's what I understand from the heedlessness. Not having the consciousness of the reality.
And he also kind of give a definition in the second line of the first table. He says, heedlessness was a veil. I saw the light of truth was concealed. Let me read it again. Heedlessness was a veil. I saw the light of truth was concealed. Just like you said, when you don't have a connection with the reality, when you lose your sense of truth, sense of reality, is your state, and he calls it as being heedless. And it's interesting. He says, I mean, he tried to make sense of existence. He tries to make sense of life. But what he sees is just ephemerality, harm, torment upon torment. So nothing, including life and the existence itself, nothing give him any peace and pleasure.
So, dear Mr. Birkan, what do you think about this? Knowledge was transformed into fancy. I saw in science 1,000 ailments. Out of curiosity, I don't know.
Why?
There might be a typo here.
Why did you ask that question, especially to Birkan?
That's a good question. Why are you asking to me?
I don't know.
So he says knowledge was transformed into fancy. I saw in science 1,000 ailments. So when he says knowledge was transformed into fancy, should we take it as knowledge was represented us as something fancy, or evham?
So the Turkish would be evham, like doubt, I would say, maybe more like doubt.
Oh, okay.
Vehim, evham.
Okay.
Knowledge is in here? Like,
No, the fancy.
Ya, ilim evhama kayboldu. So knowledge, ilm,
It becomes a doubt.
became doubt.
Became a doubt, yes. That's interesting. That's the academic way of approaching the reality, right? You start from the doubts, and in many worldviews, let's say school of thoughts, knowledge is always linked with the doubt. They say we don't even have a clear sense of what we can know, or can we know anything at all. And the reality presented in a way that everything is full of doubts. Like it's really hard to reach, if it is possible at all.
certainty.
It is really hard to reach the certainty. So that's the way they usually present. And when you follow such a worldview, it says, I saw in science 1,000 illness. So when you approach the reality, approach the universe, the nature around you, with such a worldview, everything is chaotic, everything is uncertain, just random fluctuations. We cannot make sense of anything. And what you end up with is nothing but illness.
So if you link that statement with the heedlessness, no matter how much knowledge of the thing you acquire, since you cut your connection with the reality of the things, it is not going to serve the purpose.
Not,
Or actually not just like it's not going to serve the purpose, it's going to serve the in opposite direction.
yeah. And this is what we experience currently, right? The science, so it's supposed to help us understand the things, or supposedly there to give us a better life. But what we end up, what we get at the end, is just military advancements, right? To destroy things, how to kill people more easily, massively, or how to destroy the health of the people so that they pay more for the medicine. This is how science works currently. And from inside, this is at least how I see it. So it becomes a cause of illness. So something which is supposed to get you closer to the reality, the truth, the knowledge, takes you away from it and give you an illness.
So how would you describe, like, what does science accomplish? Like, what is the purpose what science is bringing? Like, how are they recognized? Like people are getting Nobel Prizes, and that's the success of science, basically. If we all agree to that. That normally we discover something which is in the order, and we take credit for that as a scientist. We say, yay, and then I get a, now I know how to do this. Now I know, like, let's say I find a cure for something. Hey, I have the knowledge, I can use this, and I can have a solution for you. I'm sorry, is my voice coming clear or?
Oh, actually, it's distorted, at least from our side. I don't know about the others. Periha also says it's echoed, so it is distorted for her as well. So if you maybe just decrease the volume of your microphone a little bit, maybe it can help.
Okay, how about now?
It looks like it's an exploded microphone. So maybe the microphone is malfunctioning.
Or coming from a horror movie, as if you're trying to change your voice and.
Okay, maybe, I don't know. I want a mobile device, so. Alright, somebody else can talk. I'm sorry. I don't have a solution for this right now.
Oh, maybe you can write as a message. The part I can understand was how we value the success in science. You talk about the Nobel Prize, I guess, but the rest is not clear for me. If you can write, that would be great. Yes, there is another, like the same suggestion from other participants. They also say, type your question, please. Meanwhile, Azmin, you were saying something.
I was just not clear with the question. That's what I was asking.
Oh, okay.
So recently I was listening to a seminar, and I shared it with some people over the email. I don't know if anybody had a chance to listen to it. I'm going to tie this statement to something that this gentleman over there was saying. So knowledge being converted into
Doubt.
fancy or doubt. So you study, we are supposed to study something or to learn, to get some sort of a certainty. Now that the scientific knowledge that we are studying is taking us to a place that we are unsure about even the existence of truth. I mean, saying that I found the truth is one thing, but putting it aside, questioning the existence of truth is out there. Ignoring, because as Osman Abi was saying, meaninglessness was at the very center of this worldview that is being described in here. And if you look at the purpose of science or wisdom, hikmah, the word that Nursi was using in there, it is supposed to tell us truth, but now there is no search for truth. It is knowledge for the sake of knowledge. So, and the very essence of truth is lost. So it's not a search of truth.
So like man is innately created for searching for truth. That's innately in everyone's nature. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you come to a conclusion that you say that truth doesn't exist. So like you feel you put yourself into a very conflicting situation that you constantly struggle within yourself. On one hand, like you are passionately like after it. On the other hand, like everything is relative and you cannot really speak of the truth.
Somebody gives you the desire, even gives a glimpse of the pleasure that you can get out of it. It gives you this heavy desire, like it's not something you can get rid of easily. But then, as if saying that, oh, by the way, there's no such thing. That gives you the pain, right?
So just to put it into context, maybe not many people listen to the link that I shared, and it was in Turkish, by the way.
I don't remember any link, by the way, but anyway.
So the author is saying that in the previous century, the Newtonian mechanics was saying that everything is deterministic, so science was supposedly providing a deterministic explanation of the universe. But with the change of, or with the rise of quantum, the matter started to be something that appears and disappears. So the uncertainty started appearing in the matter itself, and the one that makes the presentation was saying that, and the believers said that, okay, now this is a sign for the belief, and now the belief in God comes. But he says, no, it doesn't happen like that. The unbelief side came up with his own idea that the truth is also doesn't exist. So as an alternative to previous Newtonian eras, deterministic or certain science being the certain knowledge source, now in this era it became there is no truth, or the truth does not exist. And this comes under within this worldview comes with this relativism with its own interpretation. Since Osman Abi is in here, I don't want to touch relativism too badly. But in this worldview now, knowledge itself becomes, the real purpose of studying knowledge itself becomes uncertainty.
Asim, he wrote a question. He says, what are we going to do with all the knowledge and accomplishments? So obviously we have some certain kind of knowledge about the reality through our sciences.
Mm-hmm.
We learn things.
Mm-hmm.
It says, what are we going to do with all the knowledge and accomplishments? It continues, do they solve our human problems? So I would ask him what he means with the human problems, but considering the problems with his microphone, maybe we should make our own interpretations. So again, apparently we receive certain kinds of knowledge. We know, for instance, how, shadow relates to sun. So what are we going to do, he says, with this knowledge? If science is useless or, problematic, if it's giving us illness, so what are we going to do? That's a hard question for me, a deep one, maybe someone else. Anyone from online participants? Otherwise, I will ask Yusuf, and he will just say something negative just because it's science. Yeah. Go ahead, Yusuf. Share us.
So enlighten us.
Enlighten us with your negative thoughts.
Okay, let me enlighten you. So there's a letter, not translated into English, but Nursi writes a letter to a doctor. And in this letter, he says to the doctor, "Oh, doctor, investigate your knowledge. You are going to find a lot of logs," he says.
A lot of logs?
Log, the tree trunk.
Oh, tree trunk.
Yeah. So he says, you are going to find a lot of logs. At some point of my life, I studied sciences and I investigated my knowledge. He says, I found a lot of logs. So you will. He says, let them into fire so that from their darkness will come light to you. Because he says you need to enlighten your knowledge. I guess, I don't know if this is what Asim was asking, but this knowledge is the knowledge that the science is explaining, like talking about the things for themselves, for their own sake. Explaining, again, giving an example from Nursi, talking about sun for the sake of sun. And giving us its measure, how old it is, or how large it is. But
talks about causal relationships.
But doesn't tell us why sun is there, why am I here, what is the relation between me and sun? Because, I don't know, I am going to die one day, sun is going to die another day. So it doesn't provide any knowledge that satisfies, as Asim was saying, my human needs. So I need to find this dimension of the knowledge. And I guess we need to lit our scientific knowledge with fire.
Well, it reminded me, I thought he or you would make a connection with when Quran says they carry their own, not logs, but I don't know, the thing that will be, how to say? The fuel, yes, the fuel of the light in Jahannam, hell. So you study, and what you get, you collect the fuel of the hell.
And actually, there is another similar metaphor in Quran. It is for the people of the book, and Quran resembles them to the donkeys that carry book, and says that does carrying the book, does it benefit the donkey? So I guess it's not enlightening. As long as it's not enlightening me, then I'm just carrying it.
Yeah, anytime this kind of subject comes up, like it seems like there is always in the discussions there are two extremes. Like on one hand there is science and technology which works and which we all are submerged into it and we all use. And on the other hand, like when you read texts like this one, on the surface, it feels like you are rejecting your own experience. So where is the middle ground? That is the question. Because no matter what, not tomorrow, maybe Monday, you are gonna wake up 8 in the morning and
again it comes to our profession. Go ahead.
You're gonna go to your lab and continue your research, and everyone else will go back to their whatever the field they are in. So, if that's what we are gonna do in everyday life, then what is the point of denying that? It feels like that, it sounds like this is what we are saying. Even though we are doing, but it has no reality in it. So, I don't think that is really the case. When you talk about knowledge and link it to the reality, that doesn't mean that you are not going to wake up next day in the morning and go back to work again. But as you are acquiring those, whatever the field that you are in, those knowledge, still one should be looking for the aspect that looks at the reality of those things, whatever they are. So everyone will, whether we say it or not, everyone will inevitably continue the life that we in. Otherwise, that would be rejecting the order as a whole altogether.
And also there is an order to know your creator. So in the life, the way we are created, we kind of have to study the reality to learn about our Creator. This is the only way we learn about our Creator.
Like, yeah, I mean, that's what you're like, what is available to you.
Yeah.
Like, I think it always comes down to like two different, like, we are always at the fork and we have the free will and we need to make choice. We either take the path of the right or the path of the left. And that is, as far as I understand, that's always like what Nursi practices actually in his writings. And as I don't know what's going to come up in the next table, but like even in this, he gives you two different perspectives, two different approach, and two different worldview. And when he talks about it, like Yusuf was referring to it, I think last week, the young like high school students, like when they ask the question, like our teachers always talk about like science, and they never talk about God. So how are we supposed to make sense of that? And he says like, look at those sciences like in the name of their creator. So I think it is not really like, it goes back to the same point, like you will still like study your chemistry or physics, but what is going to be your perception when you are dealing with those subjects?
So let me quote from Quran. There's an ayah this is from Surah Furqan, ayah 60. It's really interesting. It goes to what you just said. It is translated as, when it is said to them, prostrate to the most gracious or merciful, they say, what is most merciful? Shall we prostrate to that which you command us? And it increases their aversion from truth, the translation. So the first part is really interesting. It says, when they are said to prostrate to the most merciful, they say, what is most merciful? What are you talking about? Like, should we prostrate to think that you are just pointing? Or should we prostrate you, like just believe you? I mean, we can read this ayah as, unbelievers, they're just, again, crossing the line and so on and so forth. But it also says that when you talk about the most merciful, there's part of you, ask the question, what is the most merciful? I mean, what am I talking about? And in the next ayah, he gives the answer. Again, it is translated as, the blessed is he who made constellations in the skies, like place the stars there, and there place the lamp pointing to sun, and the moon giving light. This is the most merciful. So, I mean, the way I understand is, when you say most merciful, how you know most merciful is when you look at the skies, when you study your reality and see that there is a lamp there put specifically for me so that I can benefit, like with a starting point. And this is how you reach, how you know the most merciful one. So, yes, what we study and what we're discussing here shouldn't mean that you should leave the reality, leave the nature, leave the science, or whatever you want to call behind, and just think about the God, the most merciful. But then one part of you will ask the question, what's the most merciful? What am I prostrating? And the answer will come from your studies of the nature. If you study it in the right way, of course. If you take the sun as something being put, being created, just for you.
And as you are going through this process, there is always the risk for you to turn that knowledge into fancy.
Exactly. And just like how it ends, the first part of the ayah, first ayah, and it increased them in aversion from the truth. So it can also increase your distance from the truth, the same process. Just as a side note, this ayah is a prostration ayah. So after the discussion, please do not forget to prostrate. Go ahead, please.
For reference, what verse 60, 61?
60, 61, yes. Surah Furqan, 25th Surah, and ayah 60 and 61.
Okay.
Should we continue with the second table? Any other comments? For the ones who just joined us for the first time, please do not hesitate to interrupt, to say whatever you want to say. This is the way we discuss. Just open your mic, and as soon as I see it, I will close ours and turn off ours. Just jump in, please. There's a comments from one of the participants. She says, so fancy refers to admiring creation without making a vertical connection. I guess we can take it that way. But also there's a vagueness of this translation, the fancy. In the Turkish original version, it was, again, evham, which refers to doubts, having a doubt about something, or not being certain. I guess it's more refers to certainty or lack of certainty.
Anxiety.
Anxiety, maybe, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you would even admire it based on like how knowledge is being turning into a fancy. It brings so much darkness and chaos that I'm not sure if one could really admire the beauty actually.
I guess we can also take it as like the first step, because the admiration is always there. Like whether you believe or not, don't, you start with the admiration to the creation, and then you try to attribute it to something, and the point you reach is usually denial of the admiration that you started with. So maybe, yeah, we can also take it as admiring the creation without a link to the creator.
Because traditionally there is this attitude that, especially from conservative families, let's say, they would say don't read philosophy, because if you read philosophy, your mind is going to get messed up. Which is true, but why? So by studying, I am supposed to get an answer and be certain, and things becoming clearer for me. But now, if you ask a question to me after reading philosophy, then I would say, well, such philosopher has this idea, and that other philosopher has that idea, and this is this idea. And all of them are talking about existence, but there is no answer for me among those, so I just keep speaking about their accounts. Or maybe to the end of them, I say, okay, and this is my account of it, but am I secure? Am I convinced about that? So I guess this is what might be knowledge becoming uncertainty, because it's not really giving ease to me what I get at the end.
You become a speculator and skeptic.
Yeah.
And like, which technically means that like you have no direction.
Mm-hmm. The aim is to ask questions, but not to arrive to an answer.
Yeah, and like you are not really in search of anything or any kind of truth. Which is another like way of like kind of feeding your ego, because you can ask the most difficult questions or the most puzzling questions, and you can get high by that like, oh, like see how
Smart.
deep, yeah, how deep I think and like what kind of question I ask. So that's kind of inflating the ego itself.
If no other comments, we can continue with second table. Anyone wants to read?
Someone online native.
Maybe yes, someone online with a someone native, or at least a better English than mine. Otherwise, we have Abdurrahman.
Yeah, somebody opened up. the-
Oh, somebody opened the microphone. I couldn't see. Who was it?
So since you are seeing the whole classroom, you need to pick someone and say that read. You are the teacher.
Okay, then Abdurrahman. Read for us, please.
The table indicating the reality of the world, of the people of guidance, those with easy hearts. Then the heedlessness passed, and I saw the light of truth clearly. Existence became the proof of God. See, life is the mirror of God. The mind became the key to treasuries. See, transience is the door to permanence. The spark of perfection died, but behold the sun of beauty. Separation became true union. See, pain is pure pleasure. Life became pure action. See, eternity is pure life. Darkness became the container of light. See, there is true life in death. All things became familiar. See, all sounds are the mentioning of God. All the atoms in existence, see, each recites God's praises and extols him. I found poverty to be a treasury of wealth. See, in impotence is perfect strength. If you find God, see, all things are yours. If you are the slave of the owner of all things, see, his property is yours. If you are arrogant and claim to own yourself, see, it is trial and tribulation without end. Experience its boundless torment. See, it is a calamity most crushing. If you are a true slave of God, see, it is a limitless pleasure and ease. Taste its uncountable rewards. Experience its infinite happiness.
Oh, there is one question from Asim. It relates to the first table. It says, can you explain on compounded non-existence? And Emin, he just replied saying, transient / worldly, he says, transient existence is like non-existence because only something that is eternal can satisfy human needs. May take on Asim questions, he concludes. So the Asim was referring to part which is in the first table, again, the pleasure became pure pain. I saw existence to be compounded non-existence. Compounded non-existence, what it really means?
In the original text, he was saying that within existence, I saw 1,000 non-existence.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is translated as compounded. But,
Okay. So, yeah, from existence, I saw many non-existence.
I think the compounded here is like existence or transient existence is made up non-existence. So non-existence kind of makes up existence. It's kind of figure of speech, I guess.
Oh, Emin, would you like to expand your comments? Because I guess it was a nice answer. In light of what you just said, I'm sure we will benefit a lot if you do.
Let me try. Certainly. So in that line that Asim was asking about, pleasure becomes pure pain, I think it's in the context of human needs that pleasure that we experience every day, every moment becomes pure pain in the light of human needs. Because, I mean, I don't want to go in length attempting to define what human needs are, but I ask myself, and I find out if something has a limited lifespan, just thinking about the end, aka non-existence, turns that experience into painful one. So even though I may enjoy the moment I currently live in, the existence, I might get happy and feel joy just about, the fact that I exist. But as soon as I think about the direction that I am heading towards, which is non-existence in this first table from the point of view of the heedless, that what's the point of existing in that context? You see what I mean? So that existence that I just experienced and I felt good about it, it almost like non-existing as far as my fundamental human aspirations are concerned. If something is going to end, then what's the point of existing? It's just call it non-existence already, right? So that's, I don't know if it makes it a little more confusing or complicated, but those are some of the points that came to my mind after further thinking about that line after Asim asked the question.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Jazakallah khair. Yusuf, you were saying something?
So, and since he's contrasting it with pleasure became pure pain. Like you are enjoying something for a moment, so it exists for you for a moment, but after departure, you experience lack of it for several times. So enjoying for a moment, but experiencing lack of it for 1,000 moments, sort of. So existence becomes a sort of non-existence for me.
And multiply that by the number of the things that you enjoy and you lose.
Yeah. So then you become an enemy of existence in this case. You would like to avoid existence. Or
existence becomes your enemy.
Yeah.
Another thoughts, comments before we start discussing the second table? In the second table, he said, then the heedlessness passed. Alhamdulillah for him. I hope one day it will pass for us too. Then the heedlessness passed, and I saw the light of truth clearly. I guess now he's saying, yes, in the state of heedlessness, I had all these doubts about the truth. Whether truth exists or not, can I reach it or not?
So I'm really sorry to interrupt. Before delving into the table itself, can someone help me understand what author means by easy heart?
The heart that is content about the...
Could you stop? Just, we were unmuted. Muted, sorry.
What I understand from it is that the heart that is convinced with or content with the creator of the universe.
The heart that is content.
That has attained to like certainty of the existence of the creator.
He said, the table indicating the reality of the world, of the people, of guidance, those with easy hearts. So the way I understand it is, so when we were studying the first part, the heedless state, we have all the source of pain there waiting for us. The life is pain itself. Everything transient, giving us the pain. Even in gatherings, we saw departure, separation. So we start with a state in which we don't have the pleasure of life. We don't enjoy it. We most of the time hate it, and we complain all the time. And then guidance comes, whatever it is, and you relocate yourself in the life, and say that it's not as bad as I thought before. So your heart becomes easy with you, or becomes content with the Osman words. So again, what I understand from here is your state, your condition is easy now. That you enjoy your life, you are in peace with your life through the guidance.
And another translation for the word that Nursi uses would be the one that constantly feel the presence of the Creator. They are aware of Maker's presence, because the heedlessness is unaware of the presence of a Maker. So the second group of people, they are aware of His presence, not only existence, but His presence. I am within His presence, so constantly I am in front of Him, so there is no distance between Him and me. So He's closer to me than my jugular vein. All these are being, because in the first one, if you remember, there was a huge gap between me and the truth, to the point that the truth was not existing. So in the second one, I should be living with, like, adjacent to the truth itself. So this is why I guess living in His presence might be another translation.
In one state, you see conflict in life. In another state, you see mercy in the life. I guess once you see the mercy in the creation, you experience it, as you were saying, like live it, not only know it, but live the mercy. This is, I guess, how being in peace, being in peace means. Heedlessness passed, and I saw the light of truth clearly. Existence became the proof of God. See, life is the mirror of God. Oh, this is really profound. Existence became the proof of God. Previously, existence was source of pain, separation. Now it becomes the proof of God. And then life is the mirror of God. I guess this part needs to be studied a little bit.
Abdurrahman, it's your turn.
I think it's your turn.
There is only one person in this room who can enlighten us.
Yes, I think it's his turn as well.
I was talking about you.
Just if you want me to say some words, I'll say some words.
I'm just like, I don't want to put you on the spot. Like, I was just joking with you.
No, I mean, obviously, but so what I understand from this is, as you were saying before, you look at knowledge and it's just painful, and I mean, actually, I don't really understand it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, tell us like which part you don't understand or which part you don't like. Because usually not understanding stems from dislike.
That's interesting observation.
From experience, I guess.
Yes. Okay, let's study. That means it needs to be studied, at least. So far we know. Go ahead. Yeah.
And I guess this is also a little bit of a loose translation. I don't know if I'm reading too much into the text, but since Nursi is generally choosing the words carefully, existence became the proof of essence, I would say, or the self of God. So a little bit of a fine-tuning in there. And the life, see, life is the mirror of the truth, he says.
Yeah, actually, it's quite different. Like,
I mean, in here, in the translation, both are translated as God, God, but in the original word, in the original language, there is no God, God. I mean, neither of them are the word God. So for the first one, he says it is the existence became proof of the self, if you like, with capital D and capital S, or God's essence. Not necessarily essence, but I would say that his self, God's self. And for the second one, C, life is the mirror of the truth. Again, T, both T's are uppercase.
So, since we have only a few people who knows Turkish, you should enlighten us with your understanding. Otherwise, it would be just, playing with the words.
So I guess now he is taking, now I will try to go with the first one. Correct me. So the existence, initially existence was source of non-existence for me. Now he's saying that the existence itself points to necessary existent one, the existence of necessarily existent one. So my existence, or the existence that I experience, says, so about my existence, looking at my existence, if I can say that I exist, a more stronger result out of my own experience would be there must exist a necessarily existent one. Otherwise, I wouldn't exist. Otherwise, none of the things that I see would exist. So the existence itself becomes a stronger evidence for the existence of his self.
Like looking at a painting and coming to the conclusion that there is a painter, exists somewhere, but you may not necessarily know that painter. You may have never seen the painter, but that doesn't negate the fact that his work or her work is right in front of your eyes. That becomes the proof of the existence of the painter. You may not know whether it is he or she, you may not know any of the qualities of the painter at that point, but you can be sure of the existence of the painter.
This part really important. I guess we didn't, it was maybe a purposeful choice, but we didn't touch upon this aspect in the retreat.
Which aspect?
That when you study the existence, or when you study the reality, causes, a self or nature, when you study it, they become proof, what it says, the proof of the necessarily existent one. So yes, denial is one thing. You can deny their creatorship, but there's a second point, they becomes the proof of the necessarily existent one. In your presentation, somehow we discussed this, but...
So, just to underline, Nursi makes a very strong statement about that. He is saying that, giving Osman Abi's example, a painting talks about its existence, saying that I exist. When you look at a painting, but the painting itself tells about the existence of its maker much stronger than itself. Because painting says that I cannot happen to be here, I do not exist by myself. So there has to be a painter that painted me, but not only that, this painter has the sense of art, has the sense of beauty, this and that. So all names and attributes of the painter, now this painting becomes a proof of existence.
This, I guess, is the second part. It says, see, life is the mirror of God. Now he's talking about this attribute, the qualities of the God reflected.
Yeah, just the part that I was trying to mention was it points to itself or its own existence once, but to its maker's existence in a much stronger way. So this was a very strong statement that Nursi makes. And putting it this way, if we ask the question, what is the purpose? And why am I here? Why does the existence exist? What is the point? This is his answer. He's saying that it is an evidence, a proof for the existence of necessarily existent one.
The second part makes it even richer. Is that, see, life is the mirror of God. So he doesn't stop at the point that you say, okay, there must be a painter, but through your connection with the painting, it says life, that's interesting. Because you have a, let's say, intellectual, emotional, like human connection with the painting. Right? When you look at the painting, it's not just paper, ink, or watercolor, the oil, I don't know, whatever material is used. It's an art. You see an artful creation there. You see an arrangement of the shapes, the colors.
Usually, when it says God, like that may be like misleading. Again, like in the original text, it says
The truth.
the truth. So life is the mirror of the truth, which means going back to the like universe again. If you are really searching for the truth, you need to see the reflection of the truth in the universe.
And how you do that? By having a lively connection with the reality. Meaning, you shouldn't forget that you are a human being. You have all these faculties. You have all these senses. You have your free will. Right? Through these qualities, through these, the faculties, you make a connection with the reality. And through these connections, you get the truth. You reach the truth. You reach the qualities of your creator. You enjoy something, for instance. You do not just look at it. You enjoy it. You like it. And this likeness tells you something. You hate another thing. You find something disgusting. This feeling of disgust tells you something. Like being alive, having a lively connection with the reality makes things much richer.
And also, the life itself, the very experience of living makes me say that there must be something beyond that. Because with life, look at the whole universe.
This is an interesting connection. If life and like truth, there is an interesting connection there. If there was no life, it wouldn't like stone, for example, doesn't look for the truth as far as we can see.
But from my point of view, the way that I live, I'm saying that everything is serving me, my life as human, because life is as if the butter of the world, the highest cream of the world. So it is so much elevated, so much, everything is serving life. And now I'm saying that life is going to come to an end for nothing. The very fact that life is coming to an end tells me that there has to be something beyond that. Otherwise, the whole system that I am experiencing is just waste, pointless. It cannot be. Because that I am experiencing life, I say that there has to be something beyond that. I cannot accept it the other way around. I would like to quit life if there's nothing beyond that. A human cannot accept that. Of course, if you would like to accept, you go with it, you find ways to do it, but human qualities, as Asim was saying, it's unacceptable for life that there's nothing beyond that. And once I die, I am done. I am gone for good. So this is why I guess, and this is in contrast to science was changing knowledge to doubt,
uncertainty.
Now, my experience of life tells me that no, there has to be something certain, something beyond that. It cannot be like vague doubt or nihilist sort of an attitude saying that it doesn't have any meaning beyond that. What are you looking for? I cannot accept this because of life, my experience with life. And even if my experience in life would be painful, still it would be hard for me to accept. I would say, well, even if things are going in an awkward way in my life, still things are going in an awkward way. I mean, awkward in the sense that maybe you are not, life is not as if you are walking on a red carpet. Maybe there are some trials and tribulations in your life, but still the way that they are located in my life, I am seeing that there must be something beyond that. It's very much like as if there's a very well-written story, and I'm so far looking back, I can say that everything was put in order perfectly. So it doesn't seem to be random, it doesn't seem to be meaningless, and it shouldn't be.
The mind became the key to treasures. Treasures. Okay. The mind became the key to treasuries. C. Transience is the door to permanence. So in the heedless state, the mind was a source of torture. He said the mind became pure torture. And through this, he concluded that I saw permanence to be tribulation. That was how life seemed to him in a heedless state. But now he says, through the guidance, the mind became the key to treasuries. Transience is the door to permanence. Transience becoming a door to permanence. Two contrasts.
Years ago, someone was comparing Nursi versus Rumi in their approach to the interpretation of the Quran. In Rumi's understanding, in order to be in the presence of the Creator at all times, you have to leave the universe behind. You have to forget it. Which, in the Sufi tradition, that's called that's where I think Wahdat al-Wujud understanding come from. But as opposed to Nursi's understanding of or interpretation of the Quran or the universe, you don't forget the universe. You look at the universe and the existence and the transience of it. You understand the transience, and that's where you find the permanence, because through that change, through that transience, you find the truth or the Creator, and that change actually becomes for you to observe the attributes of the Maker, and also it becomes a way for you to communicate with him. In other words, the Creator actually speaks to you in two ways, one with his action and one with his words. So if revelation of Quran is his speech, talking to you in terms of words, universe is the revelation or speech in terms of action. So there is that constant change that brings all sort of messages to you. And that is the, if you the medium that you have where you find the permanence. Because that is the only way that you can communicate with the Creator.
Asim says something in line with what you just said. He says, it is through realizing that the world is not going to give me permanence, that the world is transient, I look for the source of permanence. So I guess in his understanding, he can correct me anytime, It starts with the state of looking for permanence. We as human beings, we look for permanence. We look for pleasure, constant pleasure, or peace, let's say. But we realize that nothing can give us permanence, constant peacefulness, the pleasure. When we look at the things that we enjoy, they always change, right? Very rapidly. We enjoyed reading certain kinds of books. After a few years, we hate them. We say, oh, I was a child reading them. Or we like certain kinds of movies. After 20 years, it changes because they can't give us the pleasure anymore. We have to change things. We have to search for pleasure in different things. Nothing can give us the pleasure constantly. The permanence is not there.
And from that, if you raise your head from the things to the door of those actions, you don't busy yourself with the actions anymore. Like again, it is not about the beings, not about the change in the beings, and they don't change themselves anyway. So that very change, I think this point is important. I want to emphasize again. Someone is speaking to you. Do we really know what that means? Like somebody speaking to you in terms of his actions.
With his actions.
Yeah, like with his actions, like in the form of actions. The change, you just change the definition of the change. If one can look at the universe with that understanding, you wouldn't even be able to speak of the change anymore in a way that like actually it is not a change for you, it is an actually like speech.
Just like your speech is constantly changing,
but you don't.
Creation is changing.
You don't. When you listen to the speech, you don't talk about like word change from like let's say word to like couch. You don't say that.
You don't complain.
You don't even like look at the speech in that sense. Like you don't from that perspective. You just like try to decipher like meaning out of the speech, and that's also how it's supposed to be with the actual like creation. Your focus is not about like the change, like transience aspect, because you know that those are just there to deliver the message, and there is someone who is actively delivering a message to you through the action. Like you can think of it as like the paint, somebody already made it, and now like you're looking at the complete painting. Or you can think of it as like someone is actually, as you are watching the paint or seeing the painting, somebody like actually the painter is like painting it as you are watching it.
And it changes according to your understanding, your feeling.
It's a two-way street. It's not just one direction. Like you respond to it, like based on the response, you get something else, and it's a dynamic process.
And in here, there's a training of feelings, because my feeling hates transience, and I am yearning for permanence. But Mercy is saying that you should train this feeling. By training this feeling, because my heart loves the things, but the things that my heart loves just dies away. My heart is in search of a permanent one. And he says that your heart is going to find the permanent looking through this transitoriness. Because previously, in the previous parts of 17th word, we were studying the same thing again, and he was saying that the path to eternity passes through non-existence, he was saying. And to the extent that he was saying that be non-existent in yourself so that you are going to find the permanent one. Because as long as I also say that I exist, I'm not able to find the permanent one, because I do exist by myself. So he was saying that you yourself should non-exist first, meaning that see your permanence. Seeing my permanence, I will
Your transience.
your transience. Through my transience, I will recognize that there is someone who provides me, which is the permanent one. So now I am changing the direction of my love towards this transitory things to the permanent one. So I guess this transience is the door to permanence applies to myself as well. Be transient in yourself so that you're going to find the permanent one.
Can we say that realize that you are transient?
Yes. Because I think like I am permanent and I'm going to stay in the world as if, or I live as if I'm permanent, I exist by myself. But recognizing my transience, which is really, I am always aware of it in the back of my head, and this is what really tortures me. So seeing it, but not stopping there, that still I am being provided with life and existence, so therefore there must be a permanently existing one, which is the solution for my ultimate yearning for existence.
In another place, Nursi says the fading out of a flower is its prostration. So when we see a flower fading out, disappearing, or losing its color, the beauty, it tells us that I'm not the source of this beauty. Like the prostration. Like there is something beyond me, there is something above me. I'm not the source of my beauty, I'm not the source of my existence, my being. Whatever you see there, you enjoy me, like you put me in a pot and put in your house, you enjoy it, but after a while it dies and tells you that whatever you've been enjoying in me, I was not the source.
Actually, this is very good metaphor or defining a meaning for prostration. Because in the Salat we make prostration, but prostration is now turning your face from all transitory things, or dying like a flower, or sunsetting, because in sunset it's also as if prostrating, or any of the flowers as they died. I mean, they are prostrating physically, they're also prostrating. They are not standing like this, but they're going like prostration. And in my Salat, I am doing the same with all of them and saying that all we are transitory, and we are now turning to your permanence. We are declaring that you are the permanent.
Yes. Through our transitoriness, we indicate you, we point you the permanent one. It's interesting when you say that, like everything in life has its prostration. The night becomes day. Day becomes night. Right? The moon takes place of the sun. Sun takes place of the moon. There's always a prostration of things, saying that I cannot stand there even if I want. I have to go. I have to set. I have to give my place to something else.
I was thinking of tidal waves when you said something only sets. That's what I was thinking.
Great example, the waves.
Yeah,
really great
the
example.
flow of waves always.
They always, they reach their maximum peak and then go back. They don't stay there. It's a great example, actually.
And we call it normal curve. I mean, it's a normal curve, and we assume whenever we cannot find a better distribution, we say that, assuming that it's a normal curve, meaning that it starts small, raises up, and then goes down.
Like a bell.
Yeah, like a bell curve, yeah.
I guess, like, once we start giving names to things, assuming that they are natural or ordinary, we lose the sense. That was the beginning of what? The 12th law? Was it 12th, 13th? That he was saying the heedlessness or science, philosophy, whatever you want to call, tells us that everything is ordinary. They follow regularities. But Quran, the guidance, teach us nothing is ordinary. Nothing, not even a weed of the fly.
Actually, this is, as soon as we are born, we are cast into the kesret, multiplicity. And religion, or like revelation, is there to teach man in that multiplicity, to teach him how to turn his face to the unity. So like, it is true that we are all submerged into the science and like secular like understanding and interpretation of the existence. But this is then like on the other hand, this is then like necessary process that everyone has to go through. For example, like when baby cries, as soon as like baby cries, like mother or father gives the food, right? Like that's what the experience is. And at the beginning, we take that to be true. Like when you reach the like the age of understanding what's right and what's wrong, then one has to like question and understand the reality of it. What is behind it, or is that really the case?
We just take things as ordinary. Yeah, yes, this is how it happens.
And sometimes I feel like maybe that's what it really means to be expelled from the paradise. Because like paradise is a place where like you know and you experience everything like from the creator directly, right? And being expelled from that, like putting into that like multiplicity, and then a struggle starts, like to try to go back to him.
Today when I was listening to Hati in Friday congregation prayer, he was saying something very interesting, that he was talking about the Surah Tin. So at the beginning, Quran says what thing, like a swear to fig, or another place like a swear to thyme or olive. And when Creator does this, it's try to takes our attention, right? Attracts our mind to something which we usually think very ordinary. Fig. Who cares about the fig? But he swears on fig so that we can understand the rest by studying the fig. So when you start studying the reality, when you realize that nothing is ordinary, nothing is just simple, everything tells me a lot of things. Once I make connection, the personal connection with them, I see the beauty, I see the wisdom in them. And their change, constant change, their transience, takes me to heaven, the permanence. I don't know, it's really so exciting. The way of looking at the world through the guidance of the Quran. Something telling me that the fig is the most important thing that you can think of. Think about the fig, think about the olives. But I just eat them. I don't even think.
Yeah. And I mean, in the context of this chapter that you were mentioning, so the chapter starts with fig, but comes to humans' problems. Because generally when we have problem, we are trying to find answers in somewhere else. But the chapter starts with fig, saying that if you pay enough attention to the fig, you are going to find solutions to your human problems. Because we created man in the best of the forms, this is how the chapter goes. But then we descended him to the lowest of the low, so on and so forth. So it starts with fig. So if you pay enough attention to the createdness of fig, then maybe you can find some answers to your questions in life, or why I am so low, or feeling so lonely, as if I hit the bottom. Because when we hit the bottom, we look for someone to talk to, or maybe go to a psychiatrist, and these sort of solutions that we seek for. But Quran points to the fig.
Not that going to psychiatrist is something bad.
No,
as a side note.
but when you hit the bottom, eat fig. Moral of the story.
Because I love it.
That's a good point, because going back to what Asim was saying, that looking for permanence or human questions, I mean, something is valuable for us as long as it cures our problems. And it always starts with our problems and ends with our problems. And something is a cure for our problems. That's the reason, maybe like at the first place, that's the reason we call it as guidance. If you don't need the guidance, if you're not someone who needs to be guided, who cares about the guidance? Somebody comes and tells me the truth of the universe. Who cares if it's not related to me? Like counting how many stars there. And other comments, questions? We have like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Otherwise, we can continue. So this part, I'm not sure I could understand. It says, the spark of perfection died, but behold, the sun of beauty. The spark of perfection died, behold, the sun of beauty.
Instantaneous.
This is a little cryptic for me.
Instantaneous moment of experiencing the perfection. And
Say it again, please.
I can say the word. Instantaneous moments of perfections that you experience, and through those you find the permanent one, who is the most beauteous. And then you understand like whatever you experience is the reflection of manifestation of his perfection and beauty.
So when he says spark of perfection, what kind of perfection it refers? Before that, sorry, Asim says something. He says the perfection we see in the world is just a spark as opposed to the permanent source. Okay, now it makes sense.
Just an instantaneous moment.
Okay, spark. Okay, it's not even right.
For a
Okay.
moment.
So in the first table, and since the first table and second table are like complementary, in the first table he was saying that life became pure whim. I saw attainment to be pure loss. So perfection here is translated to English as attainment. In the original, he uses the same word for both. So in the first one, life became pure whim. I saw seeking perfection to be pure loss. Let me translate it as such. Because in life, what do? We are trying to get degrees. We are trying to master or be perfect in playing a musical instrument, or like be the best in our job. We seek some sort of a perfection. But looking from this perspective of a heedless person, seeking perfection becomes, what is the point? Am I serving to the worms in the graveyard? So to whom am I carrying this? Now in the second one, he says, okay, even if my the spark of perfection died in the first one, yeah, I mean, I'm going to die. My perfection is going to die. But he's saying that my perfection within itself should die because I am not perfect within myself. But what I am is, or what my perfection is, nothing but reflection of the perfection of the most beautiful one. So he's saying that forget about your perfection. Whatever perfection you are can be seen on you is nothing but the manifestation or reflection of the beautiful one, the most beautiful one. So now he's saying that, okay, let your perfection die away, because there's no such thing. In your perception, it's just an illusion, and it should die away. But whatever perfection is being manifest on you, it's a manifestation. And now turn your face towards this eternal sun of beauty.
Dying away means acknowledge that actually you are not the source at all.
Yeah. I mean, like the previous one, transience is the door to permanence. So be transient or recognize transience of your perfection. Because in yourself, there's no such thing. You're not perfect in any ways, because you do not exist in yourself anyways. Whatever existence, I mean, existence not only in the sense of material, existence of all those qualities on me, all those perfections on me, again, is being provided, is existence because of him. So again, backtracking, existence became the proof of his self, not my own self.
And actually, this discussion is becoming like a complementary to the cause and effect. I don't think it was like planned that way, but like
Asim says something. He says small flame versus the sun analogy. Usage of behold is very beautiful, pretty beautiful, powerful, sorry. He says usage of behold is pretty powerful. And then Emin adds, he says the fall begins after perfection is reached. Fall begins after perfection is reached. Emin, would you like to elaborate on this?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't really clear. One moment here. Okay. What I mean is, what we experience in this world, when we reach a level of perfection in any example in our lives, like for example, if you consider the human age as an example, let's say 30, 35, 40 years old would be considered the brightest years in terms of like overall with the capacity and the energy, experience, etc. But once you reach that perfection, you'll get older and older, and you're going to start losing it, the level of perfection. So you're going to start falling. I use that word as an analogy. Another example, you would work too hard all your life, and you would, let's say, be the world's most renowned physicist, and you would get the Nobel Prize and all. So you would be the top person in your area. And when you reach that level, let's call it a perfection, the downfall will begin, because you'll be probably so old, you will start forgetting about your research, the knowledge that you accumulated over the past several decades. I guess what I'm saying is, and what my understanding of the first part of this line is that, what was the original? The spark of perfection died. The perfection is like a spark. It's so minuscule. If you think about it, you reach the perfection. As soon as you reach the perfection, it disappears like a spark. Like a spark plugs in your car. It just ignites it for a few milliseconds, and it goes away. So it's kind of illusion. The earthly, worldly perfection we experience, it's actually instantaneous, like Osman was elaborating on. And what I am saying with my message is, I'm just trying to better understand why it's such. Why it's a spark, and what does that mean to what does that mean for perfection to be dying? Hope it makes it a little more clear.
Yes, thank you. That was clear. Anyone wants to add?
I want to add something.
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
So the way I understand this is similar to that. It's So like in life, you always have sparks of perfection. Like, I don't know, let's say that you take a very nice breath of fresh air outside. It feels perfect. Or you're eating your favorite food, or you go visit your family, you know, it feels perfect and you just wish you could like stop time. But it just goes away. It dies instantly right after you feel that happiness. But I guess what it's saying here is if you're a person of guidance, and I guess if you can see the truth, then every single moment for you, instead of being a spark, it's going to be like the sun. You're going to be able to feel the sun of the beauty of every single moment, instead of it just being a spark that just goes away. Yeah, that's what I understand.
I guess we can also connect with the previous one, where he says, through transience, I found the permanence. Through these sparks, you reach the sun. Let's read one line more, and then we can conclude, inshallah. Separation became true union. See, pain is pure pleasure. I chose the wrong line. That needs to be discussed a lot. Separation became true union. See, pain is pure pleasure. Separation and union.
This statement also goes back to the Rumi versus Nursi understanding. Because again, you have this intense love and desire to get like united with your creator. But if you see the universe as a veil in between, you have to pass it. If you cannot pass it, then like in your mind, physically it's not possible, right? And then in your mind, you need to almost like condemn the universe because it is the intermediary that keeps you away from your beloved one. But again, Nursi's understanding, the universe itself is where Creator manifests His beauty, and only through that you can get actually truly connected with your beloved one. Does that make sense?
So through the separation from fake gods, everything leaves you. Once you start questioning that, you reach your true beloved ones. Is that what you are saying?
You love the things in the universe, but like you have this intense desire to get again united with your beloved one, who is the most beauteous one. So there is this yearning in man's nature. So how do you really achieve that? Like just like practically speaking, how can you really achieve to get united with the Creator? If man's spirit, like if he blew into it like man from his own spirit, what does that mean? And like on the reverse side, if man's like spirit is from a nature that actually constantly yearns the Creator, Maker, how, practically speaking, in this universe, how do you really get connected with Him?
So I was just starting from simple. To me, if someone dies as third person, and if I am looking to the world from the first table's perspective, I got separated from this person for good, and he's gone or she's gone. But from the second table's perspective, if a person dies, I know that he now joined or stepped towards the eternal life. Now taking it at a very basic level. Previously, death, separation was end of it. Now, this person that passed away gets to, if you like, future and eternal life. So really, it's a union. Same thing applies to all my dead moments, because a moment that passed away is now dead, but once it dies, now it is turning to I'm saying that there's this one protector who protects or secures or records the things, and I'm going to see this in an eternal life. And of course, these are generally rhetorics, but there must be a good reasoning or conviction behind all those. So this is why the moments that passed away, or the things that died away, which I am separated with, is getting in union with the absolute existence.
Okay.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.